This is Breakfast on RN. The mining sector has welcomed the Prime Minister's proposed crackdown on environmental groups that push so-called secondary boycotts of businesses providing services to mining companies. Here's Scott Morrison speaking on Friday.
We are working to identify serious mechanisms that can successfully outlaw these indulgent and selfish practices that threaten the livelihoods of fellow Australians, especially in our rural and regional areas, and especially here in Queensland.
Banks and other lenders have been pressured not to help finance Adani's controversial Carmichael coal mine in Queensland's Bowen Basin, and the global engineering firm Oricon cut its ties with Adani 2 months ago. Now, another Queensland-based coal miner, New Hope, is also concerned its suppliers might face similar campaigns. Stephan is Chief Executive of New Hope. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast.
Good morning, Hamish.
Why shouldn't people who want action on climate change be allowed to target your company through protest action?
Well, they are permitted to target my company and express their views. What the Prime Minister is talking about is secondary boycotts, where environmental activists target suppliers to my company. The normal thing in Australia is that secondary boycotts are illegal because they're seen to be coercive. But there's a specific exemption in the Competition and Consumer Act that permits environmental activists to undertake secondary boycotts, and I think that that privilege is being misused.
It permits groups with environmental interests as well as consumer protection groups. Do you want both of those ruled out, or just environmental groups?
No, we are specifically interested in the misuse of the privilege by environmental activist groups.
So you're okay with exceptions, just not for environmental groups?
I think that the privilege that's provided to environmental activists by Section 45DD of the Competition and Consumer Act has been proven to be misused. The companies such as GHD are being targeted by the Australian Conservation Foundation for working with the Adani project. Even smaller organisations such as TradeLink Hardwares are being targeted by the Galilee blockade for providing goods and services to Adani, and I think that...
Can I just ask whether any of your suppliers have been targeted? Have you experienced this yourself?
At one stage, businesses in the Oakey Township were targeted by the representatives of the Oakey Coal Action Alliance for supporting the Ackland project.
Sorry, just to be specific though, do you have any active suppliers that have been impacted by these sorts of secondary boycotts? Because I'm just asking for evidence of this being an actual problem that's impacted your business or any of those that supply to your business.
Not specifically New Hope right now, no, but it's certainly affecting peers in the industry, yes.
So if you're not experiencing this, is this then just about silencing your critics?
No, certainly not. It's about protecting the rights of people to trade freely with other businesses.
But you just acknowledged that hasn't happened to your business, yet you're advocating for this.
No, Hamish, I've said that it certainly has happened in the past to us, and currently activists are coercing insurance companies, financial service providers against providing services to the coal industry.
What's the difference between coercing and lobbying, for example?
Coercion is the misuse of a power that is provided to try and force someone to do something or not do something. The key difference here is, and I think what the Prime Minister stated quite clearly was that he was looking at potentially the misuse of the permission that the law provides for environmental activists to undertake secondary boycotts. So, you know, if you want to trade with someone else, I can't interfere, or my company can't interfere with your right to trade with someone else. But if I was an environmental activist, well, I can interfere. And I don't believe that environmental activists should be treated any differently to any other type of organisation in our society.
I'm just trying to understand, though, what you mean by coercion, because these groups would say they're informing people about what these businesses are doing and the supply chain that they're involved in and the implications that that might have for the planet in the longer term. What's the difference between that and the coercion that you're describing? Can you give me an example of someone being coerced?
Well, for example, the TradeLink hardware chain, protesters are protesting outside their place of business because they are supplying or potentially supplying goods and services to the Adani project.
And you see that as coercion?
Yes, it is.
But isn't that just a protest?
Well, it's about who it's being undertaken against, Hamish. So, you know, there's a very good reasons why secondary boycotts are generally seen as illegal in our economy, because I should not have the right to interfere in someone else's freedom to trade with another business or entity, and yet environmental activists currently do.
So if a consultancy firm decides not to provide its services to a mining business, or a super fund decides not to invest in companies that are involved in supply chains for coal or oil, should that also be punished?
No, that's the, those businesses have that right to trade with whom they want to, or not to trade with who they want to.
So why should the businesses have that right but individuals not?
No, it's not about the individuals or the businesses. You're misunderstanding. The actual normally illegal act is the act of undertaking the boycott against the secondary party. So, for example, a vegan group may not like a restaurant serving meat. They can, quite legally, protest against that restaurant, but it would be illegal for that vegan group to punish the farmer that is supplying fruit and vegetables to that restaurant. That is a secondary boycott, and that would be illegal. Interestingly, if that vegan group was undertaking its actions for an environmental purpose or environmental protection purpose, well, then that secondary action against the farmer would be legal.
Do you understand why some people fear that this is an attempt to silence campaigns on political issues, which for many of those participating in these things, they would state very clearly that that's what they're doing?
No, well, it doesn't. What is being talked about with regards to secondary boycotts is a very specific type of behaviour and coercion that is generally seen in our economy to be illegal. There's just a very specific privilege that exists in our Competition and Consumer Act that currently allows it to take place, and we believe, our company believes, that privilege is being misused.
And do you think that, I understand you're saying that this is not an attempt to silence free speech, but organisations like yours seek political outcomes as well. You invest in advertising campaigns, community grassroots campaigns to pursue political outcomes. Do you see how, to the voting public, This might look like you're saying, well, it's okay for us to pursue what we want in the public domain through lobbying, through financing advertising, through targeting politicians perhaps, but it's not okay for groups that want action on climate change to target us.
No, that's not what I'm saying. They are free to target us. They just should not be free to target our suppliers of goods and services. That's what a secondary boycott is. It would be, Hamish, the equivalent of me seeking out a supplier of goods and services to my critic, the environmental activist group, say the Oakey Coal Action Alliance or Greenpeace or Lock the Gate, choosing one of their suppliers and coercing them not to trade with that group, and that would be illegal.
You've been fighting for more than a decade to expand your new Acland coal mine in Queensland's Darling Downs. You've got some pretty high-profile critics, among them Alan Jones. Last week, on the same day that Scott Morrison gave his speech, a Queensland court dismissed an appeal against the project by an activist group. You're meeting with the Queensland government today. What are your expectations? What are your hopes here?
Our hopes are that we will receive notification from the Queensland State Government with regards to them quickly granting us the mining leases, the associated water licence and some other approvals to allow us to move the Acland Stage 3 mine forward, creating jobs in the Oakey district.
Has there been a change in tone since the federal election?
Not particularly that we've noticed, no. The state government has stated consistently that it will follow the court process closely. The highest court in the state of Queensland has now found in our favour overwhelmingly, and so our expectation is that the Queensland state government will live up to its word and provide us those approvals so that we can move that project forward and provide job opportunities to Queenslanders in regional Queensland.
Stephan, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Hamish.
It's 13 minutes to 8.